Hi everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to be looking at Mono Black Midrange and different ways to build the deck. What cards do you need to play, and then what cards are flex slots, and what cards can you play in those flex slots? So, let's jump into it. These are the non-flex slots in Mono Black Midrange. You talk about all of these cards in the deck tech that I posted a few weeks ago, so I'm not going to do that again. But these are the cards you need to play. So notice there are only 51 cards in the main deck and 5 cards in the sideboard that you really need to play, which means there are 9 flex slots in the main deck and 10 flex slots in the sideboard. Let's talk about what you can play in those flex slots. So these are the cards that you can play in those flex slots. So let's talk about that. So again, out of these 20 cards, you're going to be selecting 9 cards to put in the main deck. And out of these 19 cards, you're going to be selecting 10 cards to put in your sideboard. And then you have built your customized Mono Black Midrange deck. So main deck Duress, up to 2 main deck Duress is decent in these flex slots. Where you have an opponent reveal their hand, choose a non-creature, non-land card from it, player discards that card. It's really good, just additional enchantment hate, really good against removal since we don't play a lot of creatures. Very good against like combo and control and all of that stuff. Reckoner Bankbuster is a 2-mana vehicle. It turns into a 4/4 with crew 3 and enters with 3 charge counters on it. We can pay 2 mana and tap it to remove a charge counter from Reckoner Bankbuster and draw a card. And then when there's no charge counters on it, you get a 1/1 pilot that can crew vehicles as though its power were 2 greater. We're mostly playing this for the card draw and the threat in the later game. We'd be playing Reckoner Bankbuster if we think we're going to be playing against a lot more mid-range and control and kind of slower games. Blade of Naoni has been a recent innovation. It's a 2-mana 3/1 with Menace. And we can reconfigure and just equip it to something or have it become a creature by paying 4 mana. And the equipped creature has base power and toughness 5/5, has Menace, and is Black Demon in addition to its other colors and types. The reason this is good in this deck, let me go back to the no flex slots, is if we attach it to an unstoppable slasher, it becomes a 5/5 with Menace, so it's even harder to deal with, which means we can get through more often and be able to trigger Unstoppable Slasher. Also, it's a demon, which means that it turns on Unholy Annex, which is just very powerful. And it's like decently sized, kind of annoying to deal with, applies a decent amount of pressure, is hard to block by itself as well. A Go for the Throat just as reasonably unconditional removal. Shieldred's Edict allows us to more easily deal with Planeswalkers in Mono Black, but also removal for other stuff. It's pretty diverse. Graveyard Trespasser is graveyard hate we could play in the main deck. Archfiend of the Dross, some people are playing just to lean more into the demon package with Unholy Annex. Shieldred is slowly falling out of favor. It doesn't fit in with the demon package, but its triggers are still really powerful against our decks and decks that draw a lot of cards. The issue is the reason this is falling slowly out of favor is that a lot of the decks that draw a lot of cards, like Treasure Cruise decks, are also playing Lightning Axe, which deals with Shieldred and doesn't deal with other stuff cleanly. But you could play 2 Invoke Despair in the main deck. Again, that's very good against these slower decks. It allows us to deal with some things that might be hard for black to deal with while also drawing a bunch of cards. And March of Wretched Sorrow, very good against aggressive decks, is black and X. And exile black cards that make it cost 2 less for each card exiled. And it deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker, you gain X life. So really good removal for these aggressive decks if we want to pad our life total. So you want to be selecting 9 of these cards to be playing in your deck. As far as the sideboard goes, remember there are 10 flex slots in the sideboard. Cut Down is good against these aggressive creature decks. We've already talked about why you'd play Duress. Anoint with Affliction, very good against other unstoppable slasher decks. Also a decent removal against these creature decks that can't be ruined with a pump spell like Cut Down can. Go Blank is really good alongside its Mind Rot effect, but it's excellent when the graveyard matters as well. So like against Phoenix, being able to exile the graveyard is powerful. Really good against Lotus, etc., etc. Withering Torment is black's targeted enchantment hate. Also decent against creatures, but we have better creature removal. We'd want to play it for enchantment hate. Cry of the Carnarium, 3 mana. All creatures get -2/-2. Just decent board wipe in black for it's really cheap. Liliana the Veil, you'd be playing against mid-range or control decks, both for the discard and being able to answer like one powerful card that their opponent is playing. Path of Peril, another cheap board wipe, destroying all creatures with mana value 2 or less. The reason you might play Cry of the Carnarium over Path of Peril is the Selesnya Company deck. Most of their creatures cost 3 but have 2 or less power, so Cry can answer more of the creatures, but Path of Peril is much cleaner against the black-red decks. We already talked about Shieldred. The End is kind of a cute card. unconditionally exiling target creature or planeswalker, and then you get to extract that creature or planeswalker. I think it's just powerful if there's a creature or planeswalker that the deck is like really heavily leaning on, like a Wandering Emperor deck or the Mirror Match or something. I've already talked about Invoke Despair. Mayhem Massacre is a very good board wipe against these aggressive decks, but also the enchantment itself is very good against cards like, or decks like Jund Sack. And we can play additional graveyard hate, even though Unlicensed Source is already in our needed cards, if we think we're going to be playing against more graveyard decks. So again, you are going to be selecting 9 of these 20 cards to be adding to your deck, and 10 of these 19 cards, as far as flex slots go, to add to your sideboard to join these cards in your Mono Black Midrange deck. If you liked this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Please. I forgot my own outro. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. See you next time.